Think about it. We spend so much of our lives at work. But have you ever really stopped to think about the invisible forces that shape everything we do there? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. We're diving deep into something called organizational behavior.
You know, it all boils down to a pretty simple question, right? Why is it that the moment we step into an office, a factory, or heck, even just log on from home, we start to act differently? The workplace has its own unique set of dynamics, and getting a handle on them is the first step to making them better.
And believe me, this isn't just some abstract academic idea. You see this stuff playing out in the headlines all the time. When delivery partners protest, it's a huge, visible sign that the human element inside that organization is under some serious stress. But you know, it goes way beyond big protests. Think about it. It's every little misunderstanding with a colleague, every time your team just clicks and nails a project, every moment of frustration, and every little win. This is where this whole topic gets really important.
So to get a handle on all this complexity, we need a way to think about it, right? A framework. And that's exactly what organizational behavior, or OB for short, gives us.
Okay, so what is organizational behavior? At its core, it's really just the study of how people behave in a work setting. We're looking at individuals, we're looking at groups, and the whole point isn't just to watch people like they're in a fishbowl. Nope. The goal is to take what we learn and actually use it to make the organization run better. And honestly, to make work a better place for everyone.
Now here's where it gets super interesting. OB isn't just one thing. It gives us two completely different lenses to look through. Think of the micro level as our zoom lens. We're getting right up close, looking at you, me, our teams, all the day-to-day interactions. And then with the macro level, we pull that camera way back. We zoom out to see the entire company as the single big entity that's part of a much bigger world. And that's exactly how we're going to structure this explainer. We'll start small and zoom out. All right, let's start with that zoom lens. Let's go micro. Inside any company, big or small, you've got these basic social forces that are always pushing and pulling on us, shaping every single conversation, every meeting, every email. So on one side, you have these forces that pull us together. Cooperation, for instance. It's the magic that lets a team do something amazing that one person could never pull off alone. And then there's just simple contact. You know, the relationships we build with the people we work with. That's like the glue that makes us feel like we belong. But then, of course, you've got the other side of the coin, forces that can push us apart. Competition can be a good thing, right? It pushes us to do better. But when everyone's fighting for the same promotion or bonus, it can get ugly and create splits in the team. And conflict. Well, conflict is just going to happen whenever you have different people with different goals. The trick is managing it. Really, the health of any team is all about finding that perfect balance between these two sides. Okay, time to pull that camera back. Let's zoom out from the people inside and look at the whole organization. It's so easy to think of a company as this closed-off, isolated thing, but that's a huge mistake. A much better way to see it is as a living, breathing system. And this idea isn't new. Back in the 60s, these thinkers, Katz and Kahn, absolutely nailed it with this quote. What they're saying is that organizations aren't islands. They're actually part of society. They're constantly taking stuff in from the outside world, doing something with it, and then sending it back out. And this leads to a really critical concept, the open system cycle. So first, you have your input. The company brings in all sorts of stuff from the environment. We're talking raw materials, money, new hires, even just ideas. Next is throughput. This is where the magic happens inside the company. It takes all that stuff and transforms it. And finally, you get the output. The company exports something back into the world, a new product, a service, whatever it is. And here's the kicker. If that output is success, it generates more energy and resources to fuel the whole cycle all over again. It's a constant loop. All right, let's take one last step back with our zoom lens all the way out. What we see from this perspective is that companies aren't just floating in a void. They're surrounded by these invisible rules. To survive and thrive, they have to play by the rules of the society they're in. And there's a name for this process. It's called institutionalization. The easiest way to think about it is like society's operating system. It's the whole collection of laws, customs, unspoken rules, basically everything that tells us what a normal or legitimate company is supposed to look and act like. And businesses play along with these norms because it helps them get funding, attract customers, and just generally be accepted. But here's what's so wild. These rules aren't permanent. They change, and they change through a pretty predictable process. It usually kicks off with some kind of crisis that just shakes up the old way of doing things.
Then, new ideas pop up, people test them out, and if they work, they start to spread. Before you know it, what was once a radical new idea becomes the new normal. It's fully institutionalized. I mean, think about the massive shift to remote work a few years ago. That's a perfect example of this process in action.
Okay, so let's tie all of this together now. We started with that close-up micro view of individuals, zoomed out to see the organization as a system, and then zoomed out even further to see society's rules. The real aha moment of organizational behavior is realizing that these aren't separate things. They are all deeply, deeply connected.
So that means your behavior at work, it's not just about you, it's shaped by your team. And your team's dynamic is shaped by the company's culture. And that company culture is constantly responding to the wider pressures of society. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say society starts caring a lot more about sustainability. Well, that pressure can change a company's big picture goals. That, in turn, changes what projects your team works on, and bam, suddenly your day-to-day tasks are different. See? It's a chain reaction. Everything is connected.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's this. Understanding this whole system from micro to macro actually gives you power. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new employee, a team lead, or the CEO. Once you see how all these levels connect, you can start to spot where the problems are. And even more importantly, you can see where you might actually have the leverage to make things better. So that leaves us with just one question. Now that you can see the whole system, where are you going to start?